So today is lesson 5. We've just been chatting a little bit about some of our plans for the upcoming Thanksgiving weekend. You may have to turn your volume up a little bit if you're watching this on video. My voice is only partly there today, so I'm not talking quite as loudly as I usually do. All right, so let's have a look at what we're going to do today. Today is all about customization. So we want to take the application that we've started building, where we've scaffolded our controllers and views, but we want to start to polish it. So we get working code and working pages, but they're not exactly what I would call production caliber. So we're going to look at how do we make our site more user-friendly and more attractive and more functional than it is right now. So we're going to make customizations in the controllers as well as in the views. We may make some more customizations. We've already done some of the data validation already in our models. We've already used data annotations. We kind of jumped ahead and did this a few weeks ago, but we may add some more. We're also going to look at implementing file upload functionality into our store, do things like adding column sorting. And then I think we actually covered this in class last week, the deployment to Azure via GitHub. So what I'm going to invite you to do is open up your project that we've been working on, open up your Global Grub project, and let's get it running in the browser with our Start Without Debugging option. And this is where we sort of left off last week, right? So we had categories. We added a bunch of categories to the database. As well, we added some products in here. So if we look at these, let's maybe start here with our products. We've got these working views, but let's start to identify ways we could and should improve what we've got so far in our site. So we're not making any new pages today. We just want to polish up what we've got. So let's start right here on our products index. Using the chat, I want you to tell me any ways you can see that we can make this page better. So if we're thinking, okay, yes, Alex, we should theme it. We are going to do that. We're going to come up with a color scheme and we'll theme the whole site. I think we'll probably do that at the end today, but we will do that. So that's a great suggestion. Maybe what I'll do is just put up a little list here as well. Okay, yeah, a logo. We can, if we have time, we can actually do that. I'm no graphic designer, but okay, so I'm going to add some of these things just to a little document. Okay, so we've got our store customizations. Okay, so we've got colors, logo. We could change the list to a grid. Yep. We could add column sorting. Yep. Page title. Yep. We'll want to do that. We'll probably skip the animations. If we have time, Jennifer, I don't know if we'll have time, but we could do a search, maybe. Yep. Now we'll have to see, or optionally, maybe Thursday morning, you can book an office hours appointment. We'll have to see how our time goes. Okay, let's deal with a few of these things. I can see at least one other thing we really need to change here. Sort of in the middle. It's functional, but what's wrong? What's the issue here? Okay, yeah, we'll want the product pictures. Well, Attila, we've already got the CRUD forms here, so I think we'll probably keep them rather than doing it all on one page. We want the photos, yeah. So, photos and currency formatter. Okay, yeah, our weight, that's a good point. We have the weight's also a little bit unclear because we didn't provide any units. So we might need to add the units for weight. Those values they don't really make a lot of sense right now. So it could be, yeah, kilograms, grams, whatever. Price should be specified. Okay, yeah, we might have a quantity or weight. Okay, so that's a decent list. So let's go ahead and start making some of these changes. Okay, so some of them are going to have to be in the view, some are going to be in the controller, and some are going to be actually in the model. Let's deal with this first because it's the most obvious thing. Instead of saying index, what should the title here be in both the browser tab and at the top of the page? What is actually being displayed here? Yeah, products. So let's go to our, just kind of close everything up for now. So under views and products, we've got our index view. Let's open that. So we see this title both on line 4 as well as on line 7. Just says index, it just takes the name of the method and view. So we want this to be products. Okay, so we'll make that change. And now both our browser tab and our page title are updated. We want to deal with the pricing. So we could format the price directly in this view, but that's not very efficient because if we go to, say, our details view, we basically want to give the price property, we want it to give it a global format. So we can actually do this in the product model. So we'll go back here. So let's go to our product model, under models and product. And on the price, we can set a display format. So it's going to look something like this. Price. We're going to set a data. I never remember the attribute name. Bear with me for a second. We want a display format. That's the attribute. We're going to set the data format string equal to, and Microsoft has these weird, thanks Alex, has these weird formats. So if we use 0 to represent the value, :C, this is currency. So it uses the web server's regional settings to determine the currency. So because my regional settings are set for Canada, it will display it in dollars and cents. My regional settings were set to Japan, it would format any currency values automatically as Japanese yen, etc. So I'll save that change. So I've added the data format, the display format above the price. And now automatically our prices are formatted as currency. Because the details view uses it, we automatically get the formatting here. So it's more efficient to set this formatting in the model rather than going into each individual view and making this change. Same here, when I go to delete, same thing, it cascades. Now here, right here in the products index. So under views, on the page itself, we change, you can see line 4 and line 7. Okay, so we can tick these off a little bit. So currency formatting, done. Page title, done. Let's look at the column sorting. What order do the products show up in right now? Yeah, it's basically as Scott, right? Just as Scott and Yulia and now mentioned, in the order we add them to the database. So it's basically by the product ID, right? If I mouse over the edit links, we can see down in the bottom left in my status bar, product ID 1, 2, 3, 4. As this list gets long, having them in that order doesn't make sense. So we want to change, we're going to do two things in terms of the column sorting. Number one is we want to change it so the default is that the products are shown alphabetically A to Z by name. The second thing we'll want to do is add this kind of functionality. It's just here. Is we'll want to make our tables sortable. So we can click on any column heading and the data will sort first in one direction, and then if we click it again, it'll sort in the other direction. So first, let's deal with the default sorting. So we're going to need to do this in the controller method because the index method has the query that populates our list. So we're going to add some sorting to the query here. So let's go to no, because they're just HTML links. So no, they can't be hidden. Your browser is going to be set to show the links by default. So let's go to the controllers and open up the products controller. Yeah, we will deal with security starting next week, but not today. So under controllers, if we open up the products controller, and everyone's file should be pretty much identical. So down here, here's our index method. So we've got a method called index. And what happens here? It uses our database connection. It uses our products DB set that we declared last week. And it also includes the parent data. So this include what's happening here is this is also grabbing the categories so that we can display the category names along. It's basically doing a join for us. So our query runs on line 25. And on line 26, we're returning the view and passing back the list of products to be displayed. So we want to add some column sorting here. And after we do that, we should probably inspect a few things in this method that we haven't seen before. We'll put those aside for now, some of the new code that's here, and we'll come back to it in a bit. So we're querying our products DB set, we're joining it to the parent object, So I'm going to modify, I'm going to add on to this query. Any better? No problem. So what we want to do is we can add an order by into this query. So we don't write any SQL, we're just using this syntax, these commands, this language is called LINQ, Language Independent Network Query. So it's a Microsoft query language that will use SQL under the hood, but we don't have to write SQL. So all we need to do here instead is use an order by, and I'm going to use a P to represent our products. So we're going to order by the product name. Yeah, LINQ is great. We're going to use it, so all of these queries are written in LINQ. So we'll be using it through the semester. I know it's new, but we'll look at some of these constructs and learn more as we go. So I'm going to add on this order by clause to the query that Visual Studio wrote for us. So where you see my blue highlighting, you want to add this to your query as well. And now when our page loads, notice it's in alphabetical order. It's ordered by. So Manjinder, check carefully. Okay, so if you're getting a red underline, you may be missing this reference to system.link. So if it's underlined, there might be a suggested reference there, telling you you need to import the system.link library. Okay, so Manjinder, what does the error say? Yep, thank you, Yulia. That should be the complete line. Yep, so that has to be an equals and greater than. Okay, good. Thanks, and thank you, Yulia and Scott, for the assistance. So now we've got our default sorting. So I want to briefly just touch on, you'll notice in this method, there are actually 3 or 4 terms that we haven't used before. What do you see? And they all sort of work together. What's different about this method from the methods that we've been creating so far in this class? Yep, oh, thanks, Amar. So we see async. Yep. What other words do we see or terms do we see in the method that are new? Okay, yep, Shisato, we've got await. So we've got async and await. Yep, our query returns a link and it's got this async. There's one other thing that's different in the method header. Right, Jesse. We've got this task of type iActionResult. Right, in the methods we see before, we did before, so like the home controller, notice we just, we were creating methods like this, just generic methods that returned an iActionResult. So in the home controller, this async, task, and await, none of these things are here. So what what's happening here? What is this async, await, async, and task? They all kind of work together. Anybody want to take a guess what they mean? Okay, yes, Scott, you're right. You guys will learn more about this next semester in your JavaScript framework class. What does async mean? Yeah, it's not going to continue until we get a response, right? This code runs asynchronously. Now, as far as what we're going to be doing in this class, and Marco says it will wait for the information from the DB to run the code. That's right. So by default in .NET Core, when we scaffold controllers, it makes all the methods run asynchronously. So what asynchronous code does, it allows other processes to run on the same thread. So Scott said, so other things can happen while this waits. The program won't just sit there. This is not particularly important for our purposes. Just it generally means the programs perform better. As I said, you'll learn more about it next semester in your JavaScript frameworks class, where you're using Node.js, where you'll work in a lot more detail with asynchronous code. So we're not really going to modify these things. We just need to know when we scaffold the methods, we get the asynchronous versions of them. If I took out all these things, you don't have to change yours. But if I did this, let's say I took out the task and I just took out the await and changed this to toList. So this is the sort of synchronous version. It works pretty much the same way for our purposes. But the scaffolded code for higher performance, it's designed to use asynchronous methods instead. Yeah, it means that other things, in this case, this code kind of is synchronous, so it blocks everything else on the thread. So nothing else could happen on the thread at the same time. So the asynchronous code is more scalable, and it's designed to be faster. It's a little bit beyond the scope of our course. It doesn't really matter for our purposes. But you're going to see this async, task, and await in all of the methods. So I wanted to just touch on what it means, but we're not really going to be using it or dealing with it. Okay, so I don't want to dive too deep into it right now. I don't want to confuse people. It's just important that we make note of what these terms mean. Okay, so we started on the column sorting. Right? We can sort A to Z. But now we also want to make our column headings clickable, right? So they work like the column headings here. And this is pretty expected behavior when we present users with a table of HTML data. They will often expect that they can sort it by clicking on any column. So fortunately, there is a really useful open source JavaScript library that we can use, and we can implement this in our project really easily. So the link is right here. It's on Blackboard. It's called sorttable.js. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But I want you to follow this link. We can check out the JavaScript. So it's a free library. So here we've got a table of HTML data. It's kind of a static table in this example. And when we add this library, it makes all our column headings clickable, gives us a little arrow, and it will resort the HTML representation using JavaScript. So there's 3 simple steps to implementing this in our project. Step 1 is download the JavaScript library. So I'm just going to right-click that and choose Save Link As. And I will browse to my project. Here's my global grub. So where would the JavaScript library go? Which folder in our project should we save this to? Yeah, Amar, inside of www root, and then inside of here should be pretty obvious. We've already got a folder. Yeah, we could put it either in the lib, or I'm just going to put it in the JS. So there's my path inside of my project, inside my solution, inside my project, www root, inside of JS. So I'm just going to save it there. And if I go back to Visual Studio, I've now got the sort table.js. So step one was download the library. Pretty easy. Well, the other way you can get there is this way. You can get there through Visual Studio. The project will probably be different for everybody. If you want to find where the project is, in Solution Explorer, at the very top, you've got this item that says Solution, Global Grub. If you just right-click it, you can choose Open Folder in File Explorer. Yeah, I think it defaults to your user's source repos, but if you open it in File Explorer, it will show you the path in case your projects are being saved somewhere else. So again, you just right-click your solution and choose Open in File Explorer, and that will take you to where you are in your operating system directory tree. So step one, download the library. Step two, include the library. Well, it says put it in the head. If we want to make this library available in all the pages of our site, where should we link to it? Which file should we add the script link to? Yeah, exactly. Let's add it under Views and Shared. Let's put it in the layout file. So here are all the JavaScripts. I'm going to go, first I'm going to paste, I'll make a comment. I'm going to give the developer credit. We didn't write this script, so we're going to link to the source. And then it's in our JS sort table.js. So that was step two. Add the link to the JavaScript into our layout file so it will be available in all our views. So I've added lines 48 and 49 to the shared layout file. So step one, download the file. Step two, add a link to it, add a script link to it. We saved it into www.root.js. It's right here. It just means start at the root path, Alex, in case we're in a subfolder. Because otherwise the path might be relative if we create subdirectories. Yeah, that's right, Scott. Okay, so now we've linked to it. So then how do we actually use this little file? It says mark your table as a sortable one by giving a class of sortable. And note, the JavaScript file is called sort table with 2 T's, but the class we add is called sortable with 1 T. So now we'll just go back to our product index. And here on line 12, we've got a bootstrap table class. If I add sortable, if I add this class, our column headings should become clickable. So I'll refresh the page, and now I can click on any column, and we've got a table that instantly sorts. I think is pretty cool. Yep, so we can use this in any kind of web project. Yep, I show when I teach PHP, we use the sortable library in our PHP class as well, because you can use it on anything, right? It's just JavaScript. Yep, absolutely, you can use this in your projects, Alex. Just make a link to it like we did in the layout file. Yep. Guess who showed this one to Albert about 7 years ago? Albert was a student in this class. Long time ago. Now, there is one other thing we should do with it. Yeah, a lot of your teachers were my former students. Albert, don't know if you ever had Jacob, Sean, Jess. We like to hire our grads, come back and teach. So this is working. It's missing one thing. Yeah, Sean is a rock star. He was a fantastic student. Jacob Amaral, yes, also a graduate of the program. Jacob took this class, and he took PHP with me as well. Okay, I'm here. If there's no change, then something may not be quite right. Make sure you refresh your page. Your page could also be cached. Yes, fair enough, Marcos. Yulia, that would be great, but the rock stars do. So when we look at this page, the sorting's working, but what's missing from it? I'd suggest we should add one thing to this. Visually. Yeah, highlight, yeah, or thanks, Benjamin, that's what I'm thinking. There's no indication, right? If I move my mouse over, there's no indication that these are clickable. They are clickable, but compared to here, right, when I mouse over the column headings, I get the cursor, yeah, on the hover. So the one easy way to do that is to wrap these in anchor tags. So I'm just going to change this. So on line 16, it's got the display for the product name. I'm just going to change this to this. I'll make an anchor tag. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's just going to say name. So I'm taking out the scaffolded display labels, and I'm just replacing them with these empty links. Yeah, you've got to make sure you, as Scott said, you have to link the script here. Otherwise, the script is in your project, but your page isn't accessing it. So if I add that link, right now name, now it's clear I can click on it. So I'm going to do the same thing with price, weight, and category. I don't care about making the photo sortable. That doesn't really make any sense. So I'm just going to leave the photo heading alone. So I'm going to change this one to just be the word price. Our third link will say weight. So this way we can also sort by category, which is useful. So I'm going to leave the photo alone. Yes, Scott, there is. We could use ASP anchor tags. I'm just doing this for simplicity. So now all of these, so now I can sort by any column, and I get this visual cue that my table headings are clickable. Okay, so we've done our column sorting. I also want to align these two columns. Typically, numeric values should be right aligned. We don't typically left align numbers. So I'm going to modify a little bit the alignment of the price and the weight. I'm also going to swap. Maybe I want the category before the photo. I want the photo to appear at the end. So let's make a few of these other changes. First of all, I'm going to move my category column before the photo, both in the heading as well as inside of the table body. I'm just going to swap those. So now the category will come after the weight. I'm also going to try to right align I'm going to add a right alignment inside the table only to the price and weight. We'll see how this looks. Looks okay, but now I probably also need to align the price and weight headings. So I'm going to add that as well. So in my table headings, we're going to right align we're in the product index view. Okay. Didn't align perfectly. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Scott, you're probably right about that. Yeah. And this is how it goes, right? We take what the scaffold gives us and we experiment a little bit. I'm going to change right to center. That's definitely better. We probably don't even need this column heading here for photo. That's going to be obvious. So I might even take that heading out entirely. I'm just going to make that a blank heading. I don't think we even need it to say photo at the top. We can still display the photos if we have them, but we don't need a heading for that. So we're almost done this page. I want to do one more little change. Going to use a couple of additional Bootstrap classes. Sure. For our table. For multiple lines, it's star slash slash star. You can also just highlight them like this and use the toolbar. Control K. I'm not big on shortcuts. I just use the toolbar typically. Yulia, did you need this or you need me to scroll up? Okay. So Bootstrap has a few other classes for tables that we can use. So here's a general table, but we've got some other examples. So for example, we can use colors or striped. So I want to use table striped. And then we also want table hover. So I want to add these two classes to our table. So we get alternating background colors and we also get a hover effect. So back on line 12, I'm going to add two more classes here. Table striped and table hover. Yes, so we've added these two new class definitions. So now we've got two different background colors. And we also get a hover effect. So it's just starting to look a little more polished, right? We're taking what Visual Studio generated, and we're starting to turn it into more of a production web application. Now there is more to do here. We're going to want to be able to include the photos. So when this is going to have to be modified in 3 places. Yep, nah, that's fine. We want to be able to upload the photo here. We want to display the photo, if there is one, here. And then when we go to edit a product, we should be able to see the current photo, but also then replace it with a different photo. So we're going to do all these things. So I've actually grabbed some royalty-free photos. I've put a bunch of resources here for you under design links. And one of them, if you haven't used this site before, where can you get photos for free? Because you can't just go onto Google, do a search, and start taking photos and using them, right? You're violating copyrights. Yeah, so there's lots of them. So Unsplash is one, there's Pexels and Pixabay. All of these are places, thank you, Attila, to get royalty-free photos. So I've taken a bunch of photos already that you can download. So I'll show them to you. Yep, there's also Creative Commons, so there's lots of places. So if we just... So I've taken some royalty-free photos, downloaded them from Pixabay of the foods we already have, as well as of a few more foods that we're going to add into the store today. So we can both edit existing foods to include a photo, as well as we can add some new foods. Yuli, I'll come to your question in just your point in just a second. So I've put all these images up on Blackboard. So rather than everyone spending time going to find images, in the lesson 5 folder, you can download that zip file. So just download this product images. You can just download it to your downloads folder and unzip it, and it will give you these photos that we're going to work with. Now, that totally depends on your site. It depends on how big you're going to display them at. You should generally compress them for the web, particularly if they're being taken with a camera, because they're huge. They're typically like 4,000 by 2,000. Shisato, it's still clickable. Oh. It's actually on the category. It looks like the photo. Oh, huh. You're right. Shisato, I'll have to think about how to get rid of that. So Yulia, you said we should be able to click on a category and then get to the products. Absolutely, and we will do that. We will, but these pages for now, for categories and products, these are largely going to be for the store owner to manage the inventory in the store. We'll make a separate controller for our shoppers. And yes, we will do that. And we'll also make it, as Shisato, I think, suggested earlier, rather than showing the categories as a grid, we might show them like in a card view or list view. So we'll do, or sorry, rather than in a list, we'll put them in a grid. So we will do that later, but maybe not today, but we will. So yes, you're absolutely right. We're going to need to do that. Okay, so go ahead and make sure you download and unzip those images, and we'll work with them in the next part of class. So we want to be able to add an image when we are creating or editing a product. And then we also want the image to show up here in our product list. There's actually one other image you can download from Blackboard. I forgot to mention this. I've also got this little placeholder image. So we can use this. Yes, you can now. Yeah, we could try that. That would work. You can download this placeholder image as well. So we can display it if there is no attached photo for a product. So I'm just going to save that. I'm just going to save that file as well, this little placeholder. So when we come back from our break, we're going to work on integrating the file upload first into Create. When we get that to work, we're going to modify the product index so we can display those photos. And then we're going to add similar code to the edit so we can also edit a product, see and replace any existing photo that's there. Okay, so we're going to do that in the next part of class. And then the last thing we're going to do is deal with some more, just anywhere on your computer, Dave, because we're going to upload them through the web application. Yes, I will now. Keep in mind, you'll have to change your connection string because it's pointing to my local server, which won't work for you. So we're going to deal with file uploads next. And then we're going to do some more customization of the layouts. We're going to want to add a font. We're going to have we're going to add a color scheme. We'll try and make a logo. Here, try another browser or a private window. Okay, thanks for that, Alex. We'll look at that. So try that first, Mihir. I do need to step away for a few minutes. Okay, and I also need to give my voice a little bit of a rest so that I can continue on with class. So I will push to GitHub. I'm going to stop the recording. We will come back in 10 minutes.